Tonight, we're diving headfirst into Echoes of a Haunting, and it's all about this farmhouse. An ordinary farmhouse, you'd think, but, well, it's anything but ordinary.
You know, it's funny. When you start reading Clara's book, she doesn't jump right into the scary stuff. She kind of paints this picture of, like, an idyllic farmhouse, the kind you'd see on a postcard.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's, like, cheerful. This old, over 100 years old farmhouse, but bright white, freshly painted. You wouldn't think twice about it.
Totally. But then she drops that little detail about the location.
Yeah.
Half a mile from the nearest neighbor, down a dirt road, past this, like, deserted shed.
Yeah.
Suddenly that cherry white paint seems a little ominous.
Oh, for sure. And as, ghost hunters, we know isolation. It's like a magnet for the paranormal, right? It's like a vacuum that just sucks in the unexplained.
It's true. It's true. What really got me, though, was the contrast she sets up.
Oh, tell me.
So she talks about these beautiful mountains, trees changing color, these crystal clear ponds. It's like a nature paradise.
Right, right.
But then, bam, deserted shed, that long dirt road, no signs of life.
Yeah.
It's like she's playing with light and shadow.
Exactly. And that's a classic technique, I think, in a lot of paranormal stories. Even in movies, you see that blend of the ordinary with something extraordinary. And that's what makes it so unsettling.
Totally. So let's talk about Clara and her family. I mean, they upped and moved from Buffalo, a big city, to this farmhouse.
Right.
You've got Clara, her husband Phil, and their 4 kids, Mike, Beth, Laura, and Mary. A whole crew looking for a fresh start, but they got more than they bargained for.
And their backgrounds are so different, right? You've got Clara, the city girl, and then Phil, he grew up in rural Virginia. I wonder how that played into their experiences in the farmhouse.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You've got Clara, maybe a little skeptical, needs proof. And then Phil, maybe he's more open to the possibility of, the unknown.
Definitely. And that difference, I think, adds a whole other layer to the story.
Yeah.
So we've got the setting, this isolated, maybe not so ordinary farmhouse. We've got the family, city meets country, a little skepticism, a little bit of maybe belief in the unknown. What were the early signs that something was, off? Well, Clara talks about this kind of gradual shift in the atmosphere, this feeling of unease that just creeps in. I'm sure a lot of our listeners, experienced ghost hunters. They know that feeling.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of being watched.
Yep.
Even when you know logically you're alone.
Yeah.
It's primal. It's unsettling.
Exactly. And for Clara and her family, it started small. It was almost, like these little whispers, just enough to make them question things, to wonder.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear more about those whispers. But first, let's take another quick detour to a place that understands the importance of being prepared for anything, especially when it comes to the paranormal.
That's right.
We're talking about DanielClass.shop again.
Gotta love him.
Because when you're exploring the unknown, you need gear that can keep up, right? And DanielClass.shop, they get it. They understand Ghost Hunter needs more than just, gadgets.
Oh, for sure. They need clothes that can handle those late-night investigations, crawling through dusty attics, maybe even running into a shadow figure or two.
And let's be honest, who doesn't want to look good while they're doing it? So head over to www.danielclass.shop and check out their awesome selection of paranormal apparel.
And now let's get back to those whispers in Clara's story, because those whispers, they often signal the beginning of something truly haunting.
Okay, so these chills, the unexplained sounds, they're just like the beginning, right?
Right.
What happens when things at the farmhouse, when the haunting, intensifies?
Things, they escalate, like you might expect. The sounds, they become more frequent, more distinct. Footsteps, they aren't just footsteps anymore. They become like heavy thuds, like someone's pacing back and forth upstairs, right above you. And the voices, the disembodied voices, they're not so disembodied anymore.
What do you mean?
They get louder. Sometimes they even, it sounds like they're calling out the family members' names.
Whoa. Okay, that's creepy. That's the kind of stuff that gets to me,
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear a creak in an old house, but to hear your name, that's different.
It is.
Did Clara see anything like, shadow figures or anything like that?
She did. Shadow figures, they become a recurring theme in her book.
Really?
Yeah, she describes catching glimpses of these dark shapes just at the edge of her vision, or lurking in the corners of rooms, or disappearing down hallways.
I bet that freaked her out. Those fleeting glimpses, I think they're sometimes scarier than seeing a full-on apparition,
I agree. There's something about not being able to fully see what's there. It plays on our fears.
Oh, did she ever figure out what they were, those shadows?
That's the thing. She doesn't. She describes them, but never really, confirms what they are.
So it's left up to the reader.
Yeah. Are they just tricks of the light? Manifestations of her own fear? Or are they something, well, more sinister?
That's so creepy. So how did the family react to all this? I mean, did they all experience it, or were some more sensitive than others?
Well, like a lot of hauntings, their reactions were, well, they were varied.
Okay.
Some of the kids, especially the younger ones, they seemed to be more sensitive to it all.
Right. Makes sense.
They saw the shadow figures more, heard the voices more. They felt those cold spots more intensely.
Kids are just more open to that stuff, I think. They don't dismiss things so easily.
Exactly. And you can imagine that created some tension in the family, right? The parents, they're trying to stay rational, keep things normal.
Yeah.
But their kids, they're having these terrifying experiences.
I think those horror movies where the kid sees the ghost and the parents are like, oh, you're just imagining things.
Right. And that just makes it even scarier for the kid.
And for the audience watching.
For sure.
So we've got this escalating haunting, a family that's, well, kind of divided in what they believe, what they're seeing. And Clara's right in the middle of it all.
Yeah, and her story, it reminds us that hauntings, they're not just about, spooky happenings.
Right.
They can really affect people's life, their beliefs, their relationships. They can leave people, well, changed.
It's true. Sometimes it's not even the ghost itself that's the scariest part. It's how it, messes with your everyday life. It makes you question what's real, what's not.
Yeah, it's that constant feeling like something's not right, that unease, that can be the most unsettling part.
All right, so we're going to check out this thing called Ghost Cam.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the haunted Hinsdale House. I thought this would be super relevant to our listeners who are into paranormal investigations. So basically, imagine dragging all your equipment with you to a haunted location.
Yeah.
What if it was already there?
Like already set up for you?
Pre-installed cameras all over the place.
So at Hinsdale, they've already got a whole system of pre-installed cameras.
Yep.
Covering all the most haunted...
The hotspots.
Yeah, the hotspots, exactly.
So you don't have to think about, we're talking 5 cameras here. 5 cameras strategically placed.
That's pretty good coverage.
Throughout the house.
Yeah. All right, so real quick.
Yeah.
With these cameras, we're talking infrared night vision.
Right.
So you're going to be able to see clearly in the dark.
Right.
You don't even have to worry about it.
You don't have to set it up.
Right.
And you're not only capturing potential paranormal activity,
Yeah.
but also your team's reactions.
That's a good point.
In real time. Imagine the jump scares you could get.
Especially for YouTube.
Oh my God.
That's gold right there.
Yeah.
That's what people want to see.
Right.
They want to see those genuine reactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only that,
Right.
it's good for documentation, too.
Oh, yeah.
It really adds another layer to the investigation.
Absolutely.
You get to see how people are genuinely reacting to what's happening.
Right.
And it makes it more believable for the viewer.
Yeah.
It
makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah. You're right there with them experiencing it.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And also, no heavy equipment
Yeah.
means that you're traveling lighter.
Right.
So you're more focused.
You can move around more easily, get to where you need to go.
And you're less likely to miss something.
Right.
Because you're fiddling with a camera. Plus, they say you get the footage, the setup time that you're saving.
And all the batteries you have to buy.
And think about this.
Yeah.
What if
Uh-huh.
you're in the middle of an investigation
Right.
and suddenly your camera batteries die?
Oh, yeah. I've had that happen.
That's the worst.
Yeah, you think you got something and then
It's gone.
the battery's dead.
Yeah.
You missed it.
But with Ghost Cam,
Yeah.
the cameras are always rolling.
So you never miss a thing.
Exactly. We've given you the intel on the house,
Mm-hmm.
and we've given you the rundown on Ghost Cam.
You got it.
The tools are there
Right.
to imagine the possibilities.
Yeah, be creative.
Absolutely. And, they really thought of everything with this system.
Yeah.
Because not only are they capturing this amazing video,
Yeah.
they're capturing incredible audio as well.
Oh, wow.
So think EVPs,
Okay.
spirit box responses, anything like that. It's all being recorded now. We've talked to several paranormal teams that have used this system.
Yeah.
And they said that because the audio is so clear,
Uh-huh.
they are capturing a lot more EVPs on the Ghost Cam footage. At the end of the investigation, you get a private download link for all of your footage.
So you can look at it right away.
You can look at it right away. And one of the things that really stood out to me was they were saying, even if you're in the middle of your investigation and decide you want the footage, you can pay right then and there.
So it's like on demand.
Yeah, they have all your credit card information on file from when you book it. And you can also pay with PayPal or Venmo. So they really made it super easy.
And now, back to the farmhouse and those whispers in the dark. They were just the beginning of Clara's story.
So the chills, the sounds, the shadow figures, It sounds like things are getting pretty intense at the farmhouse. What happens next?
Well, as you can imagine, things escalate. The sounds, they're not just, random creaks and groans anymore.
Right.
The footsteps, they turn into these like really heavy thuds, like someone stomping around right above them.
Oh, man.
And the voices, those disembodied voices, they get louder, and sometimes it sounds like they're actually like calling out the family members' names.
Whoa. Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. That would freak me out.
Yeah, it's pretty unsettling.
Did Clara talk about seeing anything else, like full-on apparitions?
She didn't really describe any full-blown apparitions, but she did mention seeing objects move.
Oh, wow. Like what kind of objects?
Well, in one instance, she talks about a book flying off a shelf in the living room, and another time, a vase just like shattered on the floor for no reason.
Okay, that's straight up poltergeist activity.
Yeah, it seems like it, right?
So how did Clara and her family deal with all of this? I mean, did they try to, like, get help or investigate it themselves?
Well, Clara mentions that they did try to, rationalize things at first. They blamed the sounds on the age of the house, the drafts. But as the activity intensified, it became harder and harder to ignore.
Yeah, I bet. 'Cause especially with those shadow figures and things moving on their own, did they ever try to communicate with whatever was haunting the house?
Clara doesn't mention any attempts at direct communication, but she does talk about like feeling this overwhelming sense of sadness, this like heavy energy in certain parts of the house.
Ooh, that's interesting. So it wasn't like a malevolent presence, but more of a sorrowful one.
Yeah, it seems that way. And it makes you wonder, right? What happened in that farmhouse? What's the story behind this sorrowful energy?
Right, like what's the root of the haunting? That's always the big question, isn't it?
It is, and sometimes those answers are more disturbing than the ghosts themselves.
It's funny, we talk a lot about the scary side of hauntings, the chills, the shadows, but we don't always talk about the emotional toll it takes on people. It can be really draining, right?
Oh, absolutely. It can be exhausting, both mentally and physically.
Exactly. Which is why, self-care is so important for paranormal investigators. You got to take care of yourselves. Well, folks, we've reached the end of another deep dive. We explored the haunting of Clara's farmhouse. From those first whispers in the dark to the full-on poltergeist activity, it's a reminder that the paranormal is all around us, sometimes in the most unexpected places.
It is. And it's also a reminder that behind every haunting, there's a story, a mystery waiting to be unraveled.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and always remember the truth is out there. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those lights on.